Hi family, I'm Stacy and I am an addict. It's really good to be here. I'm sorry I couldn't be here the whole entire weekend, but there's, life has shown up again as usual in my world, which it seems to do a lot. I'm not going to go through all the steps. For me, I just kind of tell my story and leave the rest to God. And for anybody that knows me, my friend Johnny, who brought me a crying rag before I even got started. And then I got, damn, I don't want to do this right off the gate. I got lucky, and while I was standing outside, my son called for boot camp. So I got to talk to him before he came in here, so that was pretty freaking awesome, the timing of that. So I really missed that creep. My story is no different than most of us sitting in this room or any of us in the rooms throughout the country. I know for me that using was the second half of the emotional part, what got me there, I was sexually abused from the age of 5 till I was about 13 by a family member. And that was kind of tough because I was in a place that was supposed to be safe. And I hear a lot of people over the years, well, if a kid's abused, they'll never go back into that situation, and that's not true. You get scared, you're confused, and you don't know what's going on. For me, I kept going back because it was my favorite aunt and uncle's house. And during the daytime, I was safe, it was great. It was at night when I got scared. And my aunt was very religious, so she did not believe in the boys and girls sleeping in the same room. But for me, with my cousin that I was super close to, I knew I was safe if I'd stay in his room at night, play Monopoly till like 4 in the morning, which I hated. But, she'd never allow that to happen, so I had to wait, for the middle of the night. And it continued for a long time. And I really can't tell you how it stopped, why it stopped. It just stopped. It wasn't until way later on in life that I had found out that, my brother and 2 of my other cousins were also abused by this particular cousin. And it amazed me that all throughout the years, all of us growing up together, like nobody ever talked about it, We thought we were in our own little private hell, but there were several others going through it too. I know for me, it created a lot of intimacy issues when I got older. In high school, I truly believe that I was not a partier. I didn't really enjoy it when I first started. I wanted to be a part of, like so many can understand. And I was the good girl by day and hung with the partiers by night when I could get away with it because my mom was like Hitler. So there wasn't much to get away with her. But after getting high for the first time and being sick to death, I don't know why we go back to that shit, but I went back and it took me away. It took me to that place where I was comfortable and I didn't have to feel the outside world for that time being. And I was off to the races. My dad left when I was 9, and I didn't see him for a couple years after that. That was really hard to deal with because I was never daddy's girl. He wasn't that kind of a father. He worked midnights at the railroad, and my mom was home during the day with my brother and I. So when he left, it was just kind of like a shock to the system because I wasn't aware that there was an issue or that there was a problem. And my dad was a real big camera addict, and he loved taking pictures. And I remember as a little kid going into the bedroom every day to my mom's closet and seeing his camera bag being up in the closet and thinking, okay, he's got to come back for his camera bag, so I'll catch him when he gets here because, if I promise, I'll be good. And I never seen him come home for that camera bag. I came home one day and it was gone. And it was about 2-3 years after that before I even knew that my dad lived like 15 minutes from us and just didn't have anything to do with my brother and I. Because as a kid, you can warp things, and, I believed it was my mom's fault, and there had to be a reason that my dad wasn't here, and, we just didn't know the story. And as you grow up, you find out, that they're human too, and things happen. But during the drug use and trying to learn how to have relationships through all this, it didn't really work out for me too well. I sought male companionship and sex as not a form of therapy, but it comforted me. And boys were just being boys at that time, but I was looking for something completely different. And it was almost like using at the end, because I remember feeling like, before anything would happen with these boys, that great euphoric feeling, and then afterwards that self-loathing and disgust feeling of, that did absolutely nothing for me but make me feel worse for myself. And I fought through that for a great many years, and ended up with my daughter's father when I was 17. And he was okay for the first 6 months. He ran the money and did that for a chapter of the Brotherhood in Fort Wayne. And 6 months into doing that, when he was starting to use, it became very physically violent. And I tried to endure that as long as I could, because in my head, again, I can fix this. I can make this better, it's just the drugs and alcohol. If I could get him away from this, he'll be all right. And it never really got better, it just increased. Nights of having fishing knives to my throat, clothes ripped off of me during parties and made to sit in the corner, just to completely humiliate me. A couple times jumping through some glass windows to try to get away. The insanity that I put up with during that time of my life, and actually up until I got clean, was amazing to me. How we can justify and rationalize the craziest of things. And I did. And it wasn't until the last physical altercation when I got my head hit into a home stereo speaker and my head split open. And I needed stitches. I needed to go to the hospital. He was too scared to take me to the hospital, so apparently while I passed out, he just put me on the bed and left the apartment and left me to lay there in the bed. So I woke up 3 or 4 hours later and I was like, yeah, okay, I need to get out of this because I'm probably gonna die. And I called my mom and she took me to the hospital and I sewed my head back together, and don't you know, about 3 weeks later I was back again, and wasn't done with that pain yet. But it took me until I had my daughter, and I remember setting up those jets. If this happened, I'm gone. Okay, if this happens, I'm gone. And my last one for that situation was, if anything physical happened with my daughter in my hands, I would be gone. She was 8 months old. He was leaving for work, and I remember him having me pinned on the hallway floor with my arm up my back, and his little brother and sister crying and screaming and calling his mom at work. And he got up and he threw me across the living room with my daughter in my arms, and I just sat in the chair, and it was that light bulb moment, and I was just like, I'm done, I'm out. And I let him drive away with my car, and I packed all my belongings in those big steel black garbage sacks, and I carried him down the street to a friend's house. And I was done. I was completely done. But like I said, I needed a guy in my life, because I thought that's what completed me. I thought that's what was going to make me whole. That's what was going to fill that hole in my heart. So it was not even 24 hours after that I ended up with my son's father. And spent the next 23 years trying to make that work. And as any good addict, I've seen everything that he did with the crashing the cars, going to jail, getting attorneys, not having money for our bills, even though he was a union worker. And it was him. It was all his fault. If he would just get clean, our life would be a whole lot better. Because, you know, I could stop when I wanted to. I could stop the party and come home. And, you know, I didn't have to go out. I didn't have to leave on Friday and not show up till Sunday. I got this, you know? So I spent a lot of years blaming him and just wishing and praying that he would just get clean. And after totaling every single one of my cars, I mean, every one, it was crazy. He ended up in Gary jail, Gary court system, put him on a last chance program, and told him that if he didn't start to attend meetings, he was going to be seen inside of Gary jail for a very long time. So he decided, well, that didn't sound so bad, you know, he'll go to these meetings and do what he's got to do and get his little paper signed. And so he started going, and he was drinking the first month that he was in meetings. But then I started to see this change, like, you strange people were calling my house, you know. He was going out to coffee. I'm like, what? Coffee? Are you serious? Wanting to wear his jewelry, you know, wanting to look nice. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? And I really looked at NA like a cult, like he was being brainwashed, and they were going to take him away. Then I started getting very resentful against NA, because then I started to feel like, well, shit, I'm not keeping up. Like, what's going on here? And that lasted about 18 months with me continuing to get high and thinking that because I was standing in the bathtub blowing my hits out the bathroom window, he wouldn't know that I was getting high. And we all know from sitting in meetings with addicts that come in and say, I'm not high. We know when we're high, you know? And he knew. Still trying to hang out with the same old crowd while he was learning to incorporate his world with you guys. Got to know the couple of the people before I came into the rooms. You know, his first sponsor, which everybody knows, Dan F., was just a tremendous human being. He was just a great guy. And I guess we tried to make it work during that time, but it's really hard to make anything work when you're living in two completely different worlds. And one's going on, and the other one's staying stuck. And after 18 months, he just couldn't do it anymore. And the day after Christmas, he informed me and the children that he was moving out. So, you know, that was really hard because to me, I had been with this person since I was 19 years old, and in my head, he was never, ever going anywhere. We were gonna like grow old together and be grandparents sitting in the rocking chairs on the porch together, you know? And I thought at that time, because with him leaving, that I would for sure get clean, like immediately, because I did not want to lose him, I did not want to lose my family and my home. Well, I didn't. That spiraled me into the worst 4 years of my using ever. And after a while, met somebody, started dating, because he had met somebody in the program. And they were going to have a baby right away. So my world was completely spinning out of control, and I didn't know what to do. So after moving in with this individual, and him being a drug dealer, and landing right back in the same boat I was before, I used 24/7, just to dull pain. I do not know how I kept my job during all that, but I did. And I wasn't the kind of addict that used at work, because I never did that. But the second I would get off, and up until it was time to go, I was just at it. And this lasted 4 years. And it was crazy between that time, because he would come and go, and I would get confused. I didn't know what to do, and he just wanted me clean, and I honestly wanted to get clean, but I did not know how I was ever going to live without getting high again. Like, how do you do that? How do you have campfires and not drink? How do you, not lay by the pool and not get high? How do you do these things? And it was so scary and so foreign to me that even the fear of losing my family and my home, the using won every time. And I remember standing outside on the deck one night and just looking up at the moon, and I just cried out to God. I was like, please get me out of this. Please help me. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this, but I can't do this anymore. And it was that next Saturday, I'd seen Matt at work, and he had given me a meeting schedule from NA. And I was really freaked out because I wanted to do it, but I was scared to do it. So I went to the bar to try to figure it out. I remember getting in there, and it was the same moment I had when my daughter's father threw me across the room. I sat down, I took 2 drinks off my beer, and it was like a light switch again. And I put my beer down, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm just done. And that next Tuesday, I attended my first meeting at the art group in Griffith, Indiana on Klein Avenue. And I remember walking into that church and seeing those stairs, and it's only a few stairs, mind you, but good God, it looked like, oh, it was so scary walking up those stairs. And getting into that meeting and just pouring my guts out. And I've said this several times when I do H&I felt like I was walking in with this backpack full of all this shit from my whole entire life. And what I needed you people to do was help me unpack that backpack one at a time. And it was a slow process. The hard thing for me was that after the meeting, I had a lot of people come up to me and go, can I ask you a personal question? And I'm thinking, shit, how much personal can you get? Like, I just dumped all my stuff out there on the table. And they asked me if my husband was Matt B, and I'm like, damn, I didn't even get through my first meeting, like, anonymous or nothing, like, you know? I was like, yeah. Because people had been hearing my story for 4 years prior to me coming into the rooms. So, but it was what it was, and it worked out. And it took quite a few years later before we ended up trying it again and getting back together. And it still wasn't the greatest of situations. You know, the other girlfriend and the daughter who I adore. She is a beautiful young lady. And didn't ask for any of this to happen in her world. And my heart goes out to her daily. And I miss her. It was a huge struggle for me to keep myself in meetings and stay clean. Because I never had that honeymoon phase. Like, it was balls to the walls the second I got in these rooms. And pretty much just up until the last couple of months. Last Tuesday, I celebrated 8 years. It has been by far the hardest 8 years of my life. Because, you know, before when I was using, there's a lot of shit you forget. And you ain't got to remember it all. Now, I know, shut up, Jim. And now I have to wake up every day and remember what I do and be responsible for what I do and be accountable for what I do today. I struggled really hard through this process. There weren't times that I wanted to get high, but there were times where I just didn't want to feel the pain anymore. And I didn't know how to make that stop, so I did what you people told me to do. And I'd pick up the phone, or I'd go to a meeting, or I'd pray, or I'd journal. And all those things work, believe it or not. And it kept my feet on the ground, and it kept me clean. The last 2 years of my life have been the hardest that I have ever gone through. I'm sure most of you in this room know Matt B. And he had attempted suicide on Father's Day. He was in ICU for a week, in an induced coma for a couple days. And I want to tell you, just from a few phone calls, I had at least 40, 50 addicts in that waiting room every day. There was not a second that I or we were left alone, in a good way. He was put on meds, and I believe that he tried really hard. But somewhere through this process, something went terribly wrong. And he struggled really, really hard the next 6 months. And on December 28th, he took his life. I remember getting that last text from him telling me that he loved me always and forever. And he said it to our children, some of my family members, and some of his very closest friends. And no one could reach him, no one could get a hold of him, he would not answer his phone. Less than an hour and a half, 2 hours later, I'm getting a phone call from the hospital. And I thank God for addicts being with me at that moment, because I was on the floor for quite a few months. My house was filled with all these amazing people that helped us get through this process. And it's real tough today to go to the cemetery and have to see his name on a gravestone. And for me, I knew that at some point my life would move forward. But for my children, they'll never have their father ever again. And as a mother, that breaks my heart. And our baby boy just took off for boot camp. And his dad would be so proud of him. So proud of him. And I've gotten 2 letters from my son. And one of the letters was addressed to his dad. That was the most gut-wrenching letter I've ever read in my life. Because he is so upset with himself and so hurt that he treated his dad the way he did those last few months. I'm just hoping that his dad's proud of him. And I know he is. I know he is. My daughter struggles really hard with not having her dad. And it's really hard to have grandbabies ask you where Papa's at. And then they turn around in the same breath and say, Papa's in heaven, he lives with Jesus now. And it's been a really hard couple years. I did everything I could financially to try to save my house. And a week ago Wednesday, I went to court and I lost my house. So that was one of the reasons why I was not sure I was going to make it here this weekend, because I had 5 days to get out of my house. So I was pretty angry at that dealer for about a week, because I was really hoping this was going to be one of the last consequences that we had to suffer for his actions. But on the other hand, it drained me financially and emotionally, and it's going to be a huge weight off my shoulders to not have to struggle with that house anymore. I'm very sad that this has all happened while my son has gone to boot camp and he don't get to come home to his home. But he's taken it pretty well. He's a good kid. I can't say enough about this program, because without these rooms, without you people, there is no way I would have stayed clean during this process that I've had to go through. And there was no doubt in my mind about that. I did walk away from NA, so to speak, for a while. I stayed very close contact with sponsors, certain females. Used my computer a lot during the last 2 years talking to addicts. Addicts coming to the house, me going to see them. It was just very overwhelming at first to walk into the rooms and have those looks, and they were compassionate looks. It was love, but it was a lot. It was a lot to take, so I needed to remove myself for a while. And I'm slowly but surely getting back into that again, because there's no way that I could ever walk away from this. This saved my life in more ways than one, and continues to show me that every single day. And I have learned through the last 2 years, without a doubt, what faith is all about. I can't see it and I can't touch it, but I believe that it's all going to be okay, one way or another. And it may not be happening the way I want it to happen, but it's going to happen the way it's supposed to happen. And Matt used to say all the time, it is what it is. And I used to hate that. I want to smack him in his head for saying that shit. Oh God, it used to piss me off. But you know what? He's right. It is what it is. It's not what it's supposed to be, but it is what it is. So I had a choice. I either stay stuck, go back to using, or run away from everything that I've learned that helped get me to this place today. Or dig deep, do some serious grief counseling, stay connected with all you guys, and put one foot in front of the other. And that's what I did. And I'm so grateful for that, so grateful, because I knew 2 years ago if I did not do that, even in the fog of everything, this was going to take me out. This was what was going to take Stacy down. But I'm standing here today because I did what I was taught, and I listened to you guys. And all the phone calls, and all the love. It's just crazy. I mean, I have the tightest friendships today that I've ever had in my entire life. When Derek asked me to speak, it was funny because just like before 2012 hit, me and HP had a long talk. And I told him, I said, all right, I know without a doubt there were humans on this earth that helped me get through what I was going through, but there is no way I would have made it through this without you. So if things come up throughout this next year, when I'm asked to do things or opportunities show up, I will walk through that door without any fear this time. I swear to God. Within 2 weeks, I was asked to speak twice. I'm like, really? That's not what I meant. like, this is my biggest fear in the whole world. This is like book report in school time, so I don't take this. So it was one thing to speak at Fifth Street Club, then when Derek hit me up at the Valentine's dance, I'm like, oh, snap. I was like, all right, give me a week, let me think about this. And then, Jim got in his motorcycle accident, so we had to come to Fort Wayne to see him. And, so I had time to think about it, and I was like, all right, I did say it. I got to do what I said I was going to do. I can't, walk away from the commitments. And it was petrifying, and I don't know why it's so scary, because we share in meetings. Everybody knows everybody's story. There's just a different twist on it, But I guess it's the fear of being at WeGrow and up here, And I love this place. This is just one of the most serene places on earth for me to come to, and I wish I would have been able to do the whole entire weekend this year, but I just couldn't. But next year, it's on. So hopefully I'll be back in. And these last couple years will have settled themselves out and things will get back on track. So I appreciate you asking me, Derek. Okay. Kim, thank you for all the love. Jim, I love you too, baby. It's just been a whirlwind. It absolutely has. Going to San Diego for World, spending time with my girl Chelsea. It was just awesome to be able to go there, because that was a trip we had planned. And obviously Matt wasn't going to be able to be there. So his brother, who's also in the program, and Jesse P. and Mo, and a bunch of us decided to go, and do that trip for him. And it was pretty awesome, So there's been these journeys along the way of this healing process, these things that I had to do, and this was one more of them. I can't say that my heart will ever be healed from his absence, because as many many times as I wanted to kill him throughout the 23 years, this was not how I wanted him to go away. I loved him unconditionally with all my heart, and that's all I knew how to do. But life is really, really good today, and outside of everything else happening, like, I'm finally learning how to be that happy girl again, you know? And I love it. And, you know, a lot of my really close personal friends know, but a few months ago, I started my first relationship. And that was pretty scary. I wasn't sure how to do that. But I heard it was like riding a bike, and don't you know? Sure is. But it's awesome. It's really, really awesome. I'm grateful for what I have in my life today. I'm grateful for the people that still show up. And I'm grateful for the guy I got in my life today, because he's pretty freaking awesome. And my sponsor, without a doubt, is my rock. I love you so much. It's pretty awesome to have your sponsor be one of your very best friends in the whole world. And that one person that knows absolutely everything about you and never judges you, always gets you and always understands you. And she's been my biggest cheerleader through everything. And I just thank God for you every day. I don't know, I guess I'm losing it, so I guess that means it's time to shut up. But thank you again for allowing me this opportunity, and that's all I got, family.
Let's form some sort of shape and circle up and do the hug prayer.